William's company went bankrupt, and he was so furious he ended up in the hospital. My fiancé, Marcus, immediately came to our house with others to demand payment and publicly tore up our engagement. Sarah, my former best friend, put her arm around Marcus and sneered at me. A fallen heiress, still thinks she's a princess? You're not even fit to tie my shoelaces. I looked at him and suddenly smiled. The next day, I appeared at his family's board meeting as their largest creditor and publicly announced the freezing of all their assets. He said I wasn't fit for anything, didn't he? Then I'll make his entire family beg on their knees. Before we continue, please subscribe to this channel and tell us where you're listening from in the comments. The news of Vance's bankruptcy spread throughout the city overnight. William couldn't handle the shock. He suffered a cerebral hemorrhage on the spot from anger and was rushed to the hospital for emergency treatment. I had just come out of the hospital, feeling cold all over, my mind a blank. But I hadn't even had a moment to catch my breath. My fiancé, Marcus, arrived with his new girlfriend, Sarah, and a lawyer. They brazenly blocked the entrance to our family estate. He wasn't there to comfort me. He was there to demand payment. Grace, your dad's collapsed, and your family is finished. You don't still think you're some high and mighty young lady, do you? Marcus's eyes were full of scorn and disdain. He was completely different from the gentle and considerate man I remembered. Next to him was Sarah, my former best friend. At that moment, she was intimately holding Marcus's arm, her face displaying unconcealed triumph and pride. Suppressing my rising anger, I spoke, my voice a little hoarse. Marcus, let's go inside. We don't need outsiders watching and laughing. Outsiders? Marcus laughed as if he'd heard the funniest joke, pointing at my nose. Grace, you're the outsider in my eyes now. He took a document from the lawyer's hand and disdainfully slapped it across my face. The edge of the paper cut my cheek, leaving a stinging pain. It was my engagement agreement with him. From today onward, our engagement is officially nullified. As soon as he finished speaking, he tore the agreement to shreds in front of all the watching neighbors. The shredded paper fluttered down around my feet like snowflakes, glaring and ironic. Sarah giggled, nestling into his arms, and deliberately raised her left hand, showing off the massive diamond ring. Grace, I'm so sorry, Marcus just proposed to me yesterday. He said I'm the one he truly loves. Though she feigned apology, the challenge in her eyes was practically overflowing. Whispers from neighbors and relatives filled the air. Their gazes, pitying, scornful, gloating, pricked at me like 1,000 needles. I clenched my fists so tightly my nails almost dug into my flesh. Marcus seemed to relish my humiliation. He took another document from the lawyer's hand and slammed it onto the stone garden statue in front of me. This is $50 million your father borrowed from me 3 years ago in his personal capacity. It's all in black and white, with his personal signature. I'm giving you 3 days to pay it back. Otherwise, I'll have no choice but to repossess the Vance family estate, as per the contract. His cold words were like a poisoned dagger plunged deep into my heart. This house was left by my grandfather. It was William's roots and the last shred of dignity for the Vance family. I watched that despicable couple's pretense, and the bodyguards behind them, ready to storm in and liquidate our assets at any moment, my heart growing cold. I didn't cry, nor did I make a scene. I just slowly raised my head, met Marcus's unfamiliar gaze, and smiled calmly. Marcus, don't burn all your bridges, karma will catch up. I hope you won't regret everything you've done today. My smile made him freeze, then it was replaced by even greater fury. Regret? Grace, you can barely take care of yourself right now, and you dare to threaten me? He thought I was just talking tough. He didn't know that every word I said would become reality. Marcus's methods were even crueler than I had imagined to completely win over Sarah. The very next morning, I received a notification from the bank. All our family accounts had been frozen. Immediately after, a group of burly men in moving company uniforms, led by Marcus, brutally barged into our house. Grace, the 3 days are up. Since you can't pay back the money, this house is mine now. Marcus stood at the entrance, radiant with confidence like a victor, directing his men to move things out. Margaret, whose health was already poor, trembled with rage at the sight, clutching tightly to an old photograph William had left behind, refusing to let go. You can't do this. This is our home. This is robbery. Eleanor, Marcus's mother, the woman who once held my hand and affectionately called me her good daughter-in-law, also followed him inside. She shoved Margaret aside and venomously spat, still acting like a high society matriarch. Your son is half dead in the hospital. Your family is a bottomless pit. Our family doesn't raise a bad luck charm like you. Margaret stumbled from the push, nearly falling. Eleanor didn't even glance at her. Instead, she pulled Sarah close with a fawning smile. Sarah is the daughter-in-law our Jiang family has chosen. She's beautiful, from a good family, unlike some people who only bring disaster. I steadied my trembling mother, watching helplessly as our belongings were thrown out the door like trash. Those relatives and friends who used to fawn over me now kept their distance, terrified of being associated with me. I had finally seen the fickle nature of human relationships and the cold realities of life. Finally, my ailing mother and I were driven out of our family estate, where we had lived for decades, like stray dogs. We were forced to move into a rundown apartment complex with peeling paint and windows that wouldn't close properly. That same evening, on the local business news, Marcus's company, Hayes, grandly announced a new strategic partnership with Sarah's family enterprise. On television, Marcus and Sarah held hands, radiant with success as they gave interviews to reporters. He had become a successful young entrepreneur, while I, the fallen heiress of the Vance family, became the talk of the town, a laughingstock. Margaret watched the golden couple on television, then looked at our current predicament, covering her face as she sobbed uncontrollably. I gently patted her back, my gaze unyielding. Mom, don't worry, the sky isn't falling. What's ours, I will personally take back, every last bit. And what they owe us, I'll make them pay back double. Margaret raised her tear-filled eyes, looking at me with confusion. She didn't know where I found such confidence. But I knew, the real show is just beginning. Late at night, after settling Margaret to sleep, I came alone to the only quiet corner of our dilapidated rental apartment. From a pocket close to my body, I pulled out a small key. William had given it to me, his hand trembling, using his last bit of strength before being rushed to the hospital. He told me to guard it carefully. It was the Vance family's last ace in the hole. This key belonged to a top-tier safety deposit box at the bank. When the box was opened, there were no jewels or stacks of cash inside. Only a seemingly unremarkable folder. I took a deep breath and opened the folder. Inside was a creditor's document held in the name of an offshore company called Apex. The document clearly showed that 5 years ago, Marcus's family company, Hayes, had faced a severe cash flow crisis, teetering on the brink of bankruptcy. It was William who, through this offshore company named Apex, anonymously lent the Jiang family a full $300 million, helping them overcome that crisis. At the end of this document was a certificate of shareholding, clearly stating that I, Grace, was the sole legal owner of Apex Company. So, I was actually the largest creditor behind the Jiang family. I carefully put the documents away, a cold smile playing on my lips. Marcus, you never would have dreamed of this, would you? Everything you have today was given to you by William. Meanwhile, eager to prove his capabilities to Sarah and the entire business world, Marcus hastily signed a deal worth over $100 million with the offshore tech giant, Global. He promised to deliver all products within 1 week. And the new material supplier he chose to cut costs was Sarah's family's obscure small factory. I learned from an old employee still at Vance that Marcus had gambled almost all of the company's liquid capital on this order. He was radiant with confidence, giving interviews across major media outlets, boasting that he would lead Hayes to new heights. As I looked at his smug face in the news report on my phone, the chill in my eyes deepened. Marcus, didn't you want to prove yourself? Then I'll make you fall even harder. I picked up my phone and calmly dialed the number for our family's dedicated legal team. David, it's me, Grace. A surprised voice came from the other end. Ms. Vance? You. I interrupted him. I have a creditor's document concerning Hayes. Please bring your team over immediately. Yes, it's time for us to collect a debt. Hanging up the phone, I looked at the dark night sky outside the window, as if I could already see Marcus kneeling before me, begging for mercy. Marcus, your carefully woven dream is about to shatter. The industry's production floor was in utter chaos at that moment. What the hell is going on here? Why are all these products failing the moment they're tested? Marcus pointed at a pile of cracked and deformed defective products, roaring hysterically at the workshop supervisor. The shoddy materials supplied by Sarah's family had serious technical flaws. As a result, the first batch of products produced couldn't pass even the most basic quality control tests. With Dynamics' delivery deadline fast approaching, not a single qualified product could be produced on the floor. Marcus was sweating profusely, frantically calling Sarah, but could only whimper. Marcus, my dad says these are the best materials our family has. Can't you think of something else? A solution? What solution could he possibly have? Just then, Global ultimatum arrived. The email was severely worded. If Hayes failed to deliver qualified products on time by tomorrow at noon, they would face 10 times the compensation stipulated in the contract. That would be an astronomical penalty exceeding $1 billion. $1 billion. This figure, like a colossal mountain, instantly suffocated Marcus. He frantically made calls everywhere, begging everyone for help. But the bank presidents and investors who usually called him bro suddenly avoided him like the plague when they heard he needed to fill this financial black hole. Just as Marcus completely despaired, his secretary burst into the office, her face ashen. "Marcus, this is bad. Something big has happened." The secretary's voice was trembling. "They're demanding immediate repayment of the $300 million principal and all accrued interest from the loan 5 years ago. Otherwise, they will immediately petition the court for bankruptcy liquidation of our company." Marcus was paralyzed by shock, frozen in place. A massive $300 million debt? How had he never known the company had such a debt? He snatched the legal letter, staring at the unfamiliar company name on it, and screamed hoarsely, "Who is Apex? Who the hell is this? Get their company representative here to see me, now." In the emergency board meeting room of Hayes, the atmosphere was so heavy you could cut it with a knife. All the shareholders were ashen-faced, like ants scrambling on a hot plate. With $1 billion penalty internally and a $300 million debt externally, Hayes was at a dead end. At that moment, the meeting room doors were flung open from the outside. Wearing a perfectly tailored black business suit and 4-inch heels, I slowly walked in, surrounded by a retinue of top lawyers. I surveyed all the stunned faces in the meeting room, my gaze finally resting on the ashen-faced, trembling Marcus. I smiled, my red lips parting as I spoke, enunciating each word carefully. "Marcus, long time no see. You were looking for Apex's representative, weren't you?" "That would be me." The entire meeting room fell so silent that you could hear a pin drop. Marcus pointed a finger at me, his lips trembling, unable to utter a single word. You. How is this possible?" He couldn't believe that the fallen heiress he had trampled just days ago would now appear before him with such formidable authority. Ignoring his lapse in composure, I simply raised my chin slightly. David, standing behind me, immediately stepped forward and threw a thick stack of documents onto the conference table. "Gentlemen, please see here the proof of Ms. Vance's identity as the sole owner of Apex Company, along with the original $300 million loan agreement signed between your company and Apex. David's voice was clear and forceful, every word like a heavy hammer striking everyone's hearts. "As per the contract, Hayes must repay the full principal and accumulated interest, totaling $387,500,000, within 24 hours of receiving this notice. Otherwise, we will immediately initiate bankruptcy liquidation proceedings." As soon as he finished speaking, the meeting room instantly erupted. The board shareholders, who had just been standing with Marcus, now looked at him as if they wanted to devour him alive. "Marcus, what the hell is going on? When did the company incur such a huge debt? How come none of us knew about it? $380 million. How are you going to pay that back? The company doesn't even have $30 million in its accounts right now. Didn't you say the company's financial situation was excellent? You liar." Facing the accusations, Marcus was ashen-faced, slumped in his chair, unable to utter a single word. I watched all of this with a cold gaze, slowly speaking. My voice wasn't loud, but it carried clearly to everyone's ears. "Gentlemen, there's no need to panic. This debt isn't new today. 5 years ago, Hayes was on the verge of bankruptcy. It was William, out of years of friendship with the Jiang family, who anonymously stepped in to help through an offshore company. That's why Hayes is here today. William never intended to call in this debt. He only hoped the Jiang family would remember his kindness and manage the company well." I paused, my gaze like a knife scraping across Marcus's face. Unfortunately, some people not only forget kindness but also bite the hand that fed them, driving their benefactor's family to ruin. William is still lying in the hospital. The family was driven from our family estate, and Margaret is living with me in a miserable place like that. Who do we have to thank for all of this? My words made the shareholders' faces darken even further. They quickly distanced themselves from Marcus, fearing implication. I didn't give them any more time to deliberate and directly announced my terms. "Now, you have only 2 paths before you. First, repay the money immediately. Second, I will immediately apply for bankruptcy liquidation. If that happens, not only will you face the $1 billion penalty, but every cent you've invested will be lost." The $1 billion penalty and the $380 million debt, like 2 insurmountable mountains, completely crushed the nerves of everyone at Hayes. I looked at the pale Marcus, the smile on my lips growing colder. "Marcus, T. S is just the beginning. The pain you brought me, I will make you repay 1,000-fold. As soon as I finished speaking, the entire board erupted into chaos. We can't go bankrupt. My entire fortune is tied up in this. Marcus, this is all you're doing. You owe us an explanation. Robert, Marcus's father, the chairman who had been sitting silently in the main seat, finally couldn't hold back. His face turned livid. He slammed his hand on the table, pointing at Marcus's nose and roaring, "You unfilial son. You've completely disgraced the Jiang family. From now on, you are no longer the general of Hayes. Get out." To save the company, the board immediately stripped Marcus of all his positions. Just then, the meeting room doors were violently pushed open, and Eleanor, Marcus's mother, rushed in, sobbing. She didn't even glance at her distraught son, but instead lunged at me, falling to her knees with a thud. "Grace, my dear child, we were wrong. It's our Jiang family that has wronged you." She clung tightly to my leg, snot and tears streaming down her face as she pleaded, "It's all Marcus, that beast. He was blinded by greed. We were foolish and got tricked by that vixen Sarah. For the sake of our past relationship, and for the sake of you and Marcus almost getting married, please spare us this one time." The woman who once called me a bad luck charm and pushed Margaret to the ground was now whimpering and begging like a lapdog. It was utterly laughable. Marcus finally came to his senses. He scrambled over to my feet, clutching my other leg tightly, sobbing uncontrollably. "Grace, I was wrong. I truly was wrong. You're the one I love, it's always been you." He looked up, his face covered in tears of remorse, his expression as sincere as could be. "It was all that bitch Sarah who seduced me. She said bad things about you to me, and I was temporarily confused and made a mistake. Please give me another chance, okay? Let's start over, we'll get married right away. I'll." Okayed down at the man groveling at my feet and felt a wave of disgust. I raised my foot and, with all my strength, kicked him hard. The heel of my 4-inch heels landed squarely on his chin, instantly leaving a deep bloody mark. "Your love?" I sneered, my eyes full of contempt. "It's too cheap. I find it disgusting. Marcus, when you ruined my family, drove William to the hospital with anger, and kicked Margaret out of our home, why didn't you think about our past relationship? Now you're kneeling and begging me. Don't you think it's too late?" I looked down at him, speaking each word like a judgment. "You enjoyed publicly tearing up our engagement, didn't you? Well, today, in front of everyone, I'm telling you this, even if every man in the world were gone, I would never look at you again. What your Jiang family owes me, from today onward, I will collect every single penny, principal and interest, bit by bit." My words plunged Marcus into complete despair. He collapsed onto the floor, like a puddle of mud. His parents, meanwhile, were ashen-faced, looking as if they had aged 10 years in an instant. Too disgusted to look at their ugly faces any longer, I gave David my orders. "David, initiate the procedures." "Yes, Ms. Vance." My legal team was extremely efficient, immediately commencing their work. Less than half an hour later, the court summons and asset freeze order were delivered to Hayes. Not only Hayes' corporate accounts, but also all personal assets under Marcus's and his parents' names, including real estate, vehicles, stocks, and savings, were legally frozen. At this, the board members completely panicked. If the company went into bankruptcy liquidation, all their investments would be lost. To avoid losing everything, they voted unanimously and without hesitation to transfer all of Hayes' shares held by Marcus and Robert to me, valued to offset the enormous $380 million debt. I, Grace, became Hayes' largest shareholder and N.E.W. chairman overnight, transformed from a bankrupt, fallen heiress. At my first executive meeting after taking office, I announced my first decision in front of everyone. Effective immediately, Hayes will permanently terminate all collaborations with Sarah's Family Enterprise and add them to our blacklist of never-to-partner companies. All projects related to their company are to be halted at once. My second decision concerned the Jiang family. Marcus and his parents are immediately terminated for severely harming company interests. Security, throw them out of here like trash. The security guards immediately rushed in, took hold of the wailing Jiang family trio, and mercilessly dragged them out. With these two thorns in my side removed, someone in the meeting room immediately raised the most critical question. "Ms. Vance, what about global billion-dollar penalty? What should we do?" I looked at their anxious faces, smiled faintly, picked up my phone, and dialed a number in front of everyone. The call was quickly answered, and a steady male voice came through the receiver. "Hello, Grace, is everything settled?" I smiled and replied, "It's all settled, Uncle." Thank you for helping me put on such a good show this time. Haha, William is my lifesaver. This little favor is nothing. The man on the other end of the phone was the chairman of Global, and William's close friend of many years. He laughed heartily. That so-called astronomical penalty was just a trick we pulled together to scare those idiots. You go ahead and do what you need to do. Uncle's got your back overseas. After I hung up the phone, the entire meeting room was silent. Everyone stared at me with expressions as if they had seen a ghost. They finally understood that, from the very beginning, all of this had been a trap I had set. A trap of revenge, custom-made for Marcus. Marcus and Sarah, kicked out of the company, became the laughingstock of the entire city. All their assets were frozen, over night, they plummeted from the heights to the depths, left with nothing. Without money, their pathetic love instantly crumbled. A few days later, a video went viral online. The video's location was the entrance of the city's most exclusive luxury mall. In the video, Sarah was pointing at Marcus's nose, cursing him out. Marcus, you worthless loser. Didn't you say your family was rich? Now you can't even buy me a purse. Marcus also completely dropped his facade, shoving her away and roaring, you gold digger. If it weren't for your family's crappy materials, would the company be in such deep trouble? I'm like this now all because of you. Bullshit. You're the one who's incompetent, trying to push the blame on me. Sarah shrieked. I'm incompetent? If I were incompetent, would you be living in a mansion and driving a sports car? Every penny you spent came from me. The two, fighting over the few $1,000s Marcus had left in his pocket, shamelessly broke into a brawl right in front of the mall. They pulled each other's hair and cursed at each other. One called the other a greedy gold digger, the other called her a worthless good-for-nothing. The scene was even more dramatic than a chaotic street market brawl. Countless passers-by gathered to watch and take photos, camera flashes lighting up everywhere. Soon, the video titled Rich Master and New Brawl in Public Money spread across the entire internet, with views instantly breaking 10 million. I sat in my spacious and bright chairman's office. My assistant had just brewed me a cup of top-grade blue coffee. I picked up the coffee, took a small sip, then tapped open the video on my phone. Watching the disheveled and disgraceful figures in the video, I couldn't help but feel a profound sense of irony. Once upon a time, they had stood before me exactly like that, hand in hand, flaunting their love and mocking my misfortune. Now, karma had caught up. I closed the video, tossed my phone casually onto the desk, and looked out the window. Below, traffic flowed ceaselessly, a scene of bustling prosperity. And those who had once harmed me were now firmly under my heel. Marcus, Sarah, your hard times have only just begun. I raised my coffee cup, the smile on my lips cold and utterly satisfying. After taking over Hayes, I immediately embarked on sweeping reforms. First, I used my power as chairman to reintegrate the company's resources and supply chain. I brought the idled Vance family company back into Hayes' production system as a premium supplier. The factories and technical teams William had left behind were top tier in the industry. Under my leadership, the two companies formed a powerful alliance, which not only resolved Hayes' product quality issues but also significantly reduced production costs. The group's business quickly got back on track and began to flourish. I brought Margaret back to our family estate and hired the best doctors and caregivers to look after her. William also recovered and was discharged from the hospital. When he saw that I had not only saved the Vance family but had also become the chairman of Hayes, he was so moved he wept tears of joy. He held my hand and kept saying, "Good, good. My daughter has grown up and is more capable than her father." Seeing his relieved smile, I felt that all my hard work during that time had been worth it. As for Marcus and Sarah, their fates perfectly illustrated what goes around comes around. Marcus, infamous and disgraced, couldn't survive in the financial industry. No company dared to hire him, his impressive education was useless. To survive, he had to swallow his former pride and work at a construction site, moving bricks and carrying cement, exhausted like a dog every day, earning a meager daily wage. Sarah's life wasn't easy either. She tried to repeat her old trick, to hook another wealthy partner, but the scandal of their street brawl completely ruined her reputation in wealthy circles. The rich heirs who once flocked around her now avoided her like the plague. Eventually, she had to slink back to her hometown. I heard her parents later arranged for her to marry a divorced, sleazy middle-aged man with 2 children. They both paid a painful price for their arrogance and ingratitude. Sometimes I wonder, if Marcus hadn't been so ruthless back then, if he had offered a helping hand when my family fell on hard times, perhaps our ending would have been completely different. But there are no ifs. He sowed the seeds of malice, and he had to swallow the bitter fruit himself. All of this was his own doing. 6 months later, under my leadership, Hay's market value tripled. As the new generation's most outstanding young female entrepreneur, I appeared on the cover of the latest business magazine. On the cover, I wore a sharp white suit, my gaze firm, my smile confident. I had truly emerged from the shadows of the past and become the person I wanted to be. One evening, as I was driving home from work, a torrential rain began to fall outside. As my car waited at a red light at the intersection, I inadvertently glanced over and saw a familiar yet strange figure by the roadside. A man, drenched and caked in mud, was struggling in the heavy rain, desperately handing out flyers to passing cars. Despite his disheveled hair and dirt-streaked face, I recognized him instantly. It was Marcus. He seemed to notice the luxury car stopped by the road and instinctively tried to hand over a flyer. When his gaze passed through the car window and he saw me in the driver's seat, meticulously made up and composed, he froze. His eyes first showed shock, then disbelief. Finally, they transformed into endless fear, remorse, and shame. Like a thief caught red-handed, he frantically lowered his head, not daring to look at me again, and turned to hide himself in the curtain of rain. At that moment, the green light appeared. I averted my gaze, my face devoid of any emotion. For this man, love had long since vanished from my heart, and even hatred had all but faded. Whether he was doing well or poorly now, it no longer concerned me. I looked straight ahead, gently pressed the accelerator, and the car moved smoothly forward. In the rearview mirror, that humble and pathetic figure was left far behind. He quickly became a blurred speck, eventually disappearing from sight. The rain washed over the car window, as if cleansing the last trace of dust from my heart. My brilliant life, now, was only just beginning. Thank you for listening to today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share it with your friends. We look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments. Feel free to share your views, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more exciting stories. See you next time.